So you've managed to construct a killer loop or main theme, but you're struggling to string it all together and flesh it out into a full track. I'm going to be showing you guys a couple of tips and tricks to help you along the way. First things first, let's have a look at some breakdowns and build-ups. So if you've been following along, your project looks and sounds something like this. I've gone ahead and just color coded it a little bit because the gray was starting to work on my nerves. So we've got our main section, our main theme of the track, but we want to sort of create a section that builds up to that, and we want to create a breakdown from that. I'm going to show you guys a couple of tips and tricks that a lot of the guys use in Psytrance. So first things first, I like to add this ruler track. And what this does is it creates a sort of timeline which you can put anywhere. I mean, you can, drag it anywhere as a regular track. And it creates a timeline that you can use to kind of piece your entire project together once you've got your main theme. So what I like to do is I'll take this sort of main drop that we've created and move this along to about 3 minutes or so. I mean, it's up to you, depends on how long intro you want and all sorts of stuff like that. Just for argument's sake, today we're going to start at, let's say, bar number 97. So depending on the BPM that you're working with, it should be around sort of 240 to 3 minutes. Then what I like to do is I'll duplicate it backwards, but I'll leave a complete bar open. And what that's going to be is that's going to be the breakdown or breakdown and build up section. So if you're wanting to do a breakdown, pad, sort of chilled vibe, and then a build up to your main theme, I would suggest maybe leaving two of these bars open. Then what we want to do is we want to start removing some of the main percussion elements in the track. So let's say the open hi-hat, and then let's listen to this sort of pre-build up section. So there's still quite a lot going on in that section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking away some of these synth elements, and I'm going to move this little ARP that we made over so that it sort of begins in the breakdown. We can move this along like this. We can actually open up this automation panel over here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a long rising ARP section like that. And I think it'll also be pretty cool to kind of like continue our hits and grid synths that we created in this section, continue those into the break. So a very commonly used trick is for guys to actually render out kick and bass and percussion sections all together. So I'm going to just export that as a loop quickly, and then we can edit that on its own separate channel. If you're using Cubase, I would suggest ticking these two little blocks at the bottom here. What that does is as you hit export, then it's going to sort of render the track out and import the audio file back in as a loop for you on its own track. Just makes the workflow a little bit quicker. So there's a couple of variations you can do in this section. A very popular trick that the guys use is to actually put like a delay on the kick and bass and percussion loop that we've just created. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it over here, create a little bit of a fade out just so that there's no clicks. And I'm going to bounce that again just by right clicking, going to this audio menu and clicking bounce selection over here. What that does is it cuts off any of the sort of protruding tail from that section. So this audio file is now just 2 beats and then it's finished. Then we can right click again, click on plugins, and pretty much any delay will work here. I like to use the waves delay because it's got a sort of particular retro sound to it. It sounds quite analog and it's got a very nice filter that's built in. So generally speaking, I most often hear either a 1/8 dotted or a 1/4 dotted delay. So you can choose either one of those two and we'll go with that. Let's go with 1/4 for today. You want to make sure this ping pong is set on and you want to adjust the filter a little bit and add quite a bit of feedback. You don't want to go over the halfway mark because what that's going to do is it's going to start distorting as it feedback, and you don't really want that. So another very popular trick that the guys use quite often is to create a filter out of the kick and bass and percussion section on your breakdowns. So what I'm going to do is just use this duplicate version that we made earlier, and I'm going to add a filter onto the actual channel itself. So you can use any filter. Again, it can be like your DAW's built-in filter. If you're using Ableton, the auto filter works perfectly. I like to use the waves filter. I just find it sounds really, really good for what I needed to do. There's various ways we can do this. If you're wanting to kind of like bring the track down, then what we can do is we can use this low pass setting over here and just tweak the filter frequency down as the loop progresses. Or we can set it over to high pass and then tweak the frequency up as the loop progresses. So I'm going to show you guys what the high pass sounds like, and then I'm going to show you guys what the low pass sounds like. And you can make up your choice from there. And these can of course be used in combination. So you can create like sort of really varying breakdowns and build-ups using a bunch of different combinations of this trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the low pass filter out, then I'm going to do the delay. And this break over here, I'm going to do the delay again, and then we're going to filter it back in slowly for the drop. I like to start bringing some pads and atmospheres and stuff like that into these breakdown sections. And it's pretty cool. What we've done is we've left the chords in that we used for the arpeggiator. So what we can do is we can actually just create some pads using those exact chords and then filter them in and out and sort of use all sorts of different effects on those. So I've just got this pad that I've made for my Serum bank that I'm selling. So if you guys are keen to grab that, you can always follow the link in the description. And I'm just going to duplicate these chords over. So I like to leave a space just before the break or just before the drop. And that way you can bring in like a really sort of epic sounding lead or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly bring in this sort of FM lead that we created to kind of build up the tension before the drop. So there's various different ways of creating like a splash sound. I like to use a clap. It's just got like sort of considerable amount of white noise. So it's sort of full frequency sound. I just process a reverb on it. I like to use the Waves True Verb with the preset Millennium Verb. It's just such a huge sound and I use it all the time. Cool, so in this break over here, we've got to come up with a really epic lead sound. What I'm going to do is I've actually got a couple of presets that I've made. I'm just going to find one of those. But there's various other tutorials on my channel, so you can cycle through those and you can pick any one. So I'm going to go with a mystical complex lead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some extra delay on there. Let's say 1/4 dotted. Turn this linked button on and add a whole bunch of feedback on there and switch that to ping pong. Yeah, something like that. That sounds good. Let's program that in. So just to create a bit of variation, I recorded it in and then I edited the second one, and we're going to loop this over and over again, and then we're going to add some automation to like the filter or something like that. Maybe boost up that delay sound a bit. So as you can hear, it's delaying on forever. So what I like to do is I like to render these out as an audio file, just so I can chop out exactly which sort of delay tails are in there. So if I cut to a break, it's super clean. So I can show you guys quickly what I'm talking about. It also helps if you want to add some sort of variation in terms of like chopping the sound up and creating some sort of like glitch effects. So you see in this section here, like say for example, if you want to actually cut out that delay and then restart the sequence again from scratch, then it's just a lot easier to do it with a WAV file or with an audio loop than it is to do with a MIDI. If you like what I do, head on over to my Patreon and consider supporting me. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified as soon as I post more videos. See you guys next time.